My total cost of ownership for the first year with the truck has been about $17,000. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be going over the cost of ownership of the Ram TRX after over 10,000 miles and 1 year, and I guess we'll figure out how affordable or unaffordable this truck is to actually own. We're going to go over everything: fuel cost, insurance cost, car payments, maintenance, modifications, every single cost associated with the truck we're going to go over in today's video. And with that being said, I do want to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's video, which is Credit Sesame. We're going to talk about it a little bit later in the video, but all you guys need to know right now is there's a link in the description down below where you guys can sign up for free and start building your credit today. And so with all that being said, let's get right into the video. Also, this is not financial advice and for sponsorship purposes, so that I don't get in trouble with the FTC, but let's get into it. Of course, this is the best part of every single day with the TRX. So I think it's very fitting that we are actually taking the TRX in for servicing today, which should add to the cost for the year of ownership. And we do have to get a couple things fixed with the truck. So first off, you guys can see we've got the tire pressure sensor thing, all that fun stuff. If you guys don't know, I actually punctured the original tire for the front passenger side that is not showing right there, and we put on the spare tire. Now, I don't think the spare tire has a sensor, so it's causing the truck to freak out, so I just have to get the sensor moved, most likely. So that'll be a thing that'll have to be done servicing, and then the truck definitely needs an oil change. We are literally at, let's see here, wait for it. There we go. 0% for our oil life. So yeah, suffice to say, we got to take it to the dealership, get an oil change, and I guess after that happens, we can go over the maintenance costs. But speaking of popping in the truck and everything, I guess we can start off with the fuel cost. So obviously, fuel with the TRX is going to be pretty expensive because over the last year, gas prices have absolutely skyrocketed, and the TRX is not necessarily a fuel-efficient vehicle to start off with. The EPA rates it at 10 around town and then 14 on the highway. However, it does not get anywhere near that. Realistically, around town, expect to average anywhere from like 8 to 9 miles per gallon if you're lucky. I know some people in the comment section below that own TRX are gonna be like, I get 16 miles per gallon. You don't drive your truck if you get 16 miles per gallon. You probably should own a different vehicle. Anyways, yeah, so that's kind of realistic there. And then on the highway, 11 to 12 miles per gallon is realistic, to be completely honest with you. And so that's kind of what you should expect from a fuel economy perspective. So if you guys are wondering how much it cost me to own the TRX over the last year, so in total I spent over $5,000 in fuel. Now that wasn't all for the TRX. The TRX was a big portion of it though. As you guys can see, my average rating, 10.3 miles per gallon, which, you know, like I said, is what you should expect the TRX. So I spent just over $4,000 in fuel for the TRX in 2021. And so, yeah, it's expensive. I need to interrupt this program for a quick message from the TRX's ridiculous acceleration. So before we pop into the Ram dealership and take the truck in for servicing and then go over the service cost, let's get into the loan costs associated with the TRX. So the TRX is already a very expensive vehicle to start off with. The starting price is just over $70,000, and fully loaded they're $95,000 to $100,000 before dealer markup. So yeah, extremely expensive vehicle. I mean, the average wage for someone in the US right now, I think is like $50,000 a year. So this is 2 times the average wage of someone in the US, which means that the most affordable way to own one is taking out a loan on the truck, because most people don't have $100,000 sitting around. And that's where credit comes into play, and where credit is extremely important. And it's been really important for me throughout the entire duration of me running this channel. Almost every single vehicle that I've owned on this channel, I've taken out a loan on, and that's why it's been very imperative for me to have a really good credit score, which leads into our sponsor, Credit Sesame, which helps build your credit. Now we're gonna get into some cool things that they have released recently, which will actually help skyrocket your credit score. And again, not financial advice. But yeah, seriously, I cannot like hit on it hard enough that credit is so important, because not only does it help you get approved for your dream vehicle, aka the one sitting behind me, but it also helps you get a lower interest rate, which means you'll pay less interest to the banks, which means that your dream vehicle will become even more affordable. And so yeah, it's just credit is so important. The awesome feature that Credit Sesame has recently released is called Sesame Cash, and it allows you to go and do everyday transactions, but then also build your credit. And it's similar to a debit card, so it's not like a credit card where you're spending money you don't have, you're spending money that you already have. But again, it's also improving your credit because it does report to the credit bureaus, which, like I said, over time can improve your credit score. And then after improving your credit score, that can allow you to afford your dream vehicle like the Ram TRX. And so, like I said, I'm gonna include a link in the description down below to Credit Sesame so you guys can sign up for free. And I would highly recommend using the Sesame Cash so that you can improve your credit score. And another cool benefit is every 10 points that your credit score goes up, Credit Sesame will actually pay you $10 to kind of like incentivize you to keep growing your credit score. So like, they're just trying to help people out with improving their credit. So again, you can have cool stuff like the TRX. But like I said, not financial advice, and I really appreciate Credit Sesame for sponsoring today's video. And again, link in the description down below. Go sign up for free, and let's get back to the video. Now let's actually get into the cost of ownership from a loan perspective with the TRX for a year. So my monthly payment is $914 a month. I got a 2.99% interest rate for 72 months, which means I've paid roughly $1,000 in interest over the course of a year of ownership with the truck, which some of you might think that's ridiculous. Others would be like, wow, for a $100,000 truck, only paying $1,000 in interest for the first year is not too shabby. But yeah, that's roughly the loan cost. If you guys are wondering, in terms of how much I pay per month, like I said, the payment's $914, but I actually pay about $2,000 a month, so I'm buying down the loan at a quicker rate, which will in turn reduce the amount of interest that I pay in total. So that's kind of like just a bigger benefit to me personally. But yeah, that is everything from a loan perspective. And like I said, that wouldn't be possible if I didn't have a really good credit score. So yeah, Credit Sesame, link in the description. So we just officially got the truck back, so now we can get into well, we can get into the maintenance section of today's video. So I've got today's maintenance paper, and the total was just over $100 to do everything. Now that's because I did prepay for the oil changes, so like that was something that was paid for in the past, and my numbers might be off by a little bit, but I think that I paid roughly like $30-ish per oil change or something like that, which now is pretty crazy because everything's inflated with price. But the truck actually checked out pretty well. So I did get a new cabin air filter. The engine air filter didn't need to be replaced. None of the tires need to be replaced. None of the brakes needed to be replaced, which was good. New windshield wipers as well. And then I did swap the sensor. So as you guys can see, we don't have a light anymore, so everything is correct. And also, I'm curious to see what the TPMS says. Oil life is 100% now. Oh, cool. Yeah, so you guys can see the tire pressure is all the same, not wonky or anything like that. So yeah, I got the sensor switched over, so it's not going to give me a warning anymore. And so yeah, I mean, for getting that all of that done, and as quick as I got it done, I feel like that's super extremely inexpensive, ridiculously inexpensive. But yeah, that was a maintenance bill today. And in terms of the overall maintenance of the TRX, this is where it gets interesting. Well, I of course got to see if this oil change worked. Always got to do that. Always got to do that. I'm horrible holding the camera while I'm driving. But yeah, in terms of total maintenance cost, this truck's been super inexpensive for me to own over the course of a year because I prepaid for the oil change maintenance. So like I said, I think it came out to be like somewhere around $30 an oil change, and I've done the oil change like 3 times now. Yes. 3 times now. So basically in oil changes, I've spent like maybe like $90. So super inexpensive from a maintenance perspective. And then obviously that whole bill right there, which was $100. So in total, for the course of the first year, I've spent like $200 on maintenance. Now, obviously, I have had some warranty claims on this truck. The major warranty claim was with the transmission. That was the first time I took it off road, and that was when the truck was wrapped green. And that was like over $12,000 for that to be done, but that wasn't out of my pocket. That was a warranty claim, so Ram paid for that. But if I had to have paid for that, that would have been literally a $12,000 bill, and my maintenance bill would have been, you know, over 5 figures. But right now, it's only 3 figures. Now I'm back home, and I decided to wait until I got back home to talk about insurance because, well, the Raptor actually changes the insurance a little bit. Having multiple vehicles on a policy actually helps lower your overall rate. You kind of get like a package deal, basically. So as of the last year, I paid roughly, and that power stroke is extremely loud. Like, such a loud truck. Anyways, I paid about 140 bucks a month for the TRX, but I just got a new quote for the TRX and the Raptor, and the Raptor is actually now going to be about 100 bucks a month, and then the TRX is actually going to be about like less than 100 bucks a month. So my insurance is going to be dirt cheap on both of them. But as of the last year, I was paying about 140 bucks a month, which I feel like is very reasonable to insure a 700 horsepower Baja truck that I take off-road and jump. And if you're my insurance agent, I didn't say that. I never take it off-road. This is the extent of the off-roading I do, is taking it and putting it on the curb here to flex on the neighbors. But yeah, that's insurance for the year. So that totals to about like 1,700 bucks a year roughly to insure the TRX. Now the last thing is going to be the modifications, and a lot of these modifications I feel like are not necessarily necessary, but in my opinion some of them are, but like it just depends. So obviously you guys know I wrap all the vehicles, right? We always do crazy colors. Now that part of it isn't necessarily 100% necessary, but there is a part of the vehicle modification that I do recommend in terms of like the wrapping, and that has to do with paint protection film. So on both the vehicles, you guys can see here at the line, right there. And the TRX has it too. I have paint protection film on both of the vehicles, and I recommend that, especially if you can do off-roading, because that is going to protect the front end of the vehicle from rock chips and debris and all that kind of stuff. So at least the front end, and that'll probably cost you about $1,600 to $2,000 depending on where you get it done. Now for a full vehicle wrap, most places are charging $4,000 to $6,000 to wrap an entire vehicle, which I think is worth it because again, it protects the paint with the vehicle, and like, look how cool these look. They look, I don't know, they look really cool if you ask me. That's my personal opinion. So that's the first part. The next part on the TRX, and I guess we gotta walk over here to the TRX. I was trying to like hide in the corner there because a bunch of people driving by and it's always awkward to be filming. Is obviously we have the exhaust on the TRX, and then we also have the lights with the rack, and then obviously the rear bumper, and then we also have, wait for it, we have the front bumper with the lights. So there's fog lights with this, and then there's also like the light bar as well. So there's a lot happening with the mods. Now all those mods together equates to about $16,000, $17,000 roughly, somewhere around there, just to kind of ballpark it. If you guys were wanting to make your TRX look like my TRX, you'd have to spend roughly around that amount of money. Now I'm going to give you guys two different totals for today's video, because one's going to include the modifications and the other total is not going to include the modifications. So without the modifications, my total cost of ownership for the first year with the truck has been about $17,000. Now like I said, a big portion of that was obviously fuel. Was like $4,000, but the biggest portion of that is the truck payment itself. So if I just made the minimum payment every single month, which is $914, then I would have paid about $10,000 in truck payments. Now obviously a big portion of that is going towards the truck itself, and obviously there is some that's going towards interest, and we went over that earlier in today's video. I got a super low rate, so I'm not paying a massive amount in interest on the truck. And if you guys are wondering how much I actually financed on that, if you do the math, if you back calculate it, it's like just over $60,000. So I basically put like $40,000 down on the truck in total. And so I didn't finance the whole truck. If you finance that entire truck, you'd have a payment that would be like 1,400 bucks a month or something like that, somewhere in that ballpark. But anyways, that's a big part of the cost. So if you take away the truck payment, right, if you just look at fuel cost and maintenance cost and all that stuff, and insurance costs and everything, then it's less than $5,000 a year to own the TRX. And I feel like that's very reasonable for like everything that this truck is all about. But obviously the grand total for this truck, if you want to, you know, buy a TRX, do a crazy build on it and own it for a year, well, it was $33,000 is what the total came out to be, with all the modifications and obviously with the payment and all that kind of stuff taken into account. And so that's for the first year. And obviously once the truck is paid off, then that takes away a big portion of the cost. And then obviously the build is kind of like, that's like a one-time cost, right? It's not like I'm going to go and buy another rack and another set of bumpers and light bars and all that kind of stuff. Like that's kind of like a one-time cost pretty much. Obviously some of the items will wear and tear over time. So if you take, again, like I said, if you take away the one-time cost, the year-to-year cost with the TRX is like $4,000 to $5,000 a year, depending on how many miles you drive. I drove 10,000 miles in the first year. And so again, $4,000 to $5,000 sounds like a lot, but to be driving and off-roading a 700 horsepower Baja truck, I feel like that's super reasonable.